Like many of you, we've watched the recent flooding across the country with heavy hearts. Here in Austin, we've faced our own challenges with flooding. That's why planning for the future together matters so much. The City of Austin's Watershed Protection Department is updating their 10-year strategic plan, Rain to River, and they want to hear from you. Your input will help guide investments that protect Austin's waterways and communities. The survey is available now through September 15th at raintoriveratx.com. Again, that's raintoriveratx.com. Hey y'all, it's Nikki. It is summer, and for a lot of us, that means travel. Now, I don't know about you, but I still love a physical boarding pass. It's nostalgic. And even after the trip is done, I just can't seem to throw them away. Enter FrameBridge. They make it easy and affordable to custom frame just about anything. And yes, that includes my little paper boarding passes. So hold on to your personal piece of nostalgia with a FrameBridge frame. Visit framebridge.com or visit your local FrameBridge store in South Austin on South Lamar and in Central Austin on West 38th Street to start framing. You probably know all about the recent very public breakup of Elon Musk and President Donald Trump. But one reporter in Texas had her eye focused on something else: how the world's richest man is influencing local and state government right here in our city. Today on CityCast Austin, we get into how Elon Musk got his way at the Texas legislature this year. It's Monday, July 21st. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hey y'all, I want to take a moment to thank all of the folks who signed up to become a CityCast Austin neighbor during our launch campaign last week. We got a whole bunch of new neighbors who are keeping this thing going, and we are so, so grateful. We can't wait to see you at our neighbors only events. Be on the lookout for more information on that soon. And I want to give a very special thanks, especially to our new members: Lisa H., Molly M., Dave T., Greg B., Mariah G., Hey Girl, Susan R., Josh L., Nicola G., Paige C., Sherry S., Manpreet S., Julie M., and Christina C. What's up, y'all? Welcome. For those of you who missed this campaign or didn't get a chance to sign up, it is not too late. You can become a CityCast Austin neighbor at membership.citycast.fm anytime. Our doors are always open. The coffee is always on. The cocktails are always flowing. You can sign up for just $10 a month. Again, that's membership.citycast.fm. Thanks, y'all. We love you so, so much. Hello, I am here with Lauren McGahee, investigative reporter and editor for the Texas Newsroom based at KUT Austin. What's up, Lauren?
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. Now, Elon Musk has been cosplaying as a Texan since he moved many of his businesses to Central Texas and did that awesome photo shoot. At this point, would you consider him an actual Texan?
Oh my gosh, you're coming in with the guns early, Nikki. Okay, as someone that didn't grow up or go to high school in Texas, which I feel like are kind of like the cues, I don't feel like I can make that call.
That's fair.
But I've been here for 12 years. I don't feel like I can still call myself a Texan, but I do that like I didn't grow up here, but I got here as quick as I can stuff.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
Yeah. So maybe that's how he feels.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that say that. Texas is really interesting in that way because it's like people either hate it and they get out as fast as they can, or they get here and they're like, okay, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. It's complicated. I get it.
And like in other places, like I used to live in Louisiana, if you weren't born in New Orleans, like didn't come out of the womb in the city of New Orleans, you cannot call yourself a New Orleanian.
Yes.
Here, it's like, it's more fungible,
it's fluid. Yeah. So we just finished the 89th Texas legislative session. And according to your reporting, Elon Musk had a pretty successful legislative session. What are the biggest new laws that will benefit Musk and or his companies?
SpaceX was the big winner this year for Musk. In previous sessions, he's focused a lot more on Tesla, trying to get bills passed that would benefit Tesla. But this year, he really had his eyes on his aerospace and rocket company. So his lobbyists had 6 bills they wanted to pass on SpaceX, and they got 4. And they're all kind of about protecting SpaceX from interference from quote unquote outsiders. So some of the laws he passed or helped pass were like banning drones. You can't fly drones over spaceports anymore. He was able to get spaceports added to the state's critical infrastructure, which means that
What?
yeah, that sounds really wonky, but it's actually it's a big deal because now spaceports will be considered like the same level of importance in terms of security as like an airport or a military base.
So all spaceports or just his spaceport?
All spaceports, but there's only like 5 to 6 spaceports in the entire state. Most of them are very, very small and have a very small footprint. He's the only one in Texas that has a big spaceport with a big footprint, the one down in South Texas, near Brownsville. So being added to the critical infrastructure means that like anyone who interferes with operations there, like physical operations, or even tries to interfere with them, can be charged with a crime. And in other states, this has been used to go after like protesters, for example. Like if you're near the facility and you're keeping them from doing their business, you could be arrested for interfering with the operations of the area. So
which of course can be left up to interpretation. So anything
definitely
you do could be considered interfering at this point.
Yeah, and there's a lot of protests down there. There's a pretty active local community that has been protesting these facilities. So that hasn't been tested yet, but I think it probably will. And then there was a bill that his lobbyists didn't take a public stance on, but is really important because it would shield conversations about certain aerospace and military issues and contracts from public discussion. And he has a spaceport, a rocket testing site near Waco. And actually, citizens from that community came out and testified against this bill because they said it made them concerned that any discussions about expanding that site or work at that site would be kept secret, like at their local city council and county commissioners meetings. And they wanted those discussions to be open. The bill passed, it became law. And so that kind of put like those discussions in a black box and will keep people from the general public from being involved in them.
What?
Yeah. And that one really flew under the radar, no pun intended. Like almost no one was writing about that, talking about that one.
So nobody can even talk about it. So now we're talking about First Amendment stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like the public's right to access information. Yeah. And I think, I've written a number of stories recently where our right to access public information and documents seems to be getting narrower and narrower and more limited. And this just kind of adds a new topic to that black box.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow. So, do we know how much he spent on lobbying? And how does that compare to the lobbying efforts of other places like casino, gambling, school choice, consumable hemp?
Yeah. So in Texas, we don't have a ton of information as the public about lobbying. The state laws don't require lobbyists to disclose that detailed of information, but they do have to disclose the range of their salary. And in this last session, he hired 12 lobbyists, Musk, for Tesla, SpaceX, and X Corp. That's the X social media site. And the range of their possible pay was between about $400,000 to just less than $1 million.
Jesus.
So that's what the 12 of them combined, Musk pledged that he may spend on them.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And to put it in context, 12 lobbyists is not nothing, but the AT&Ts of the world, the Las Vegas Sands of the world, they'll hire 75, 100 lobbyists. They'll spend tens of millions of dollars just on lobbyist salaries. So he wasn't in that top echelon of spending on lobbying at all, but the lack of information we have about lobbying in general in Texas, you could kind of see that play out with what
Yeah.
he and his companies did this year.
It's not just about money, it sounds like, because he's not even
Mm-hmm.
paying people what other people are paying lobbyists. So, like,
Yeah.
how does he get this influence?
I think this is just a long investment paying off for him. People think he's kind of new to town, but he's been investing in Texas for 10 years.
Wow. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, SpaceX down near Brownsville, like that whole project started around about 2015. And
Shit.
the rocket site, Waco, same. He only just recently moved the headquarters for some of his businesses out of California, but he has long wanted to use Texas as his basis for operations because of this like pro-business shtick we got going on, right? In previous sessions, we reported that he himself came to the legislature and more or less begged for bills to be passed. Now, he doesn't even need to be there in person.
At all, yeah.
At the time of the session, him and President Trump were friends, and he had this long investment history. He's got these businesses with people, employment opportunities, growth opportunities. And so he's really set all the groundwork he needed to be able to have a really successful
So this is
session.
the payoff. This is the payoff
This is the
for all
payoff.
that work. Yeah.
Yeah. This is the payoff for like 10 years of sometimes quiet but massive investment in the state.
It's times like this that I always feel like these very, very rich people, very, very power hungry people are always 10 steps ahead. So you've also been reporting on some emails between Musk and lawmakers and how Governor Greg Abbott is fighting really hard to keep these email correspondence with literally the world's richest man a secret.
That's right.
What's going on with that? What's in the emails?
This is a pretty pro forma thing in journalism, right? If you're not going to get an interview with someone, then you start filing records requests. And so we filed requests for emails with a bunch of people, with the lieutenant governor, with senators that were carrying some of these bills that Musk's companies were in favor of, and we filed them with Governor Greg Abbott. So we asked for just about 8 or 9 months of emails. So it was fall 2024 to spring of this year. And we asked for any emails or any correspondence. So that could be text messages, voicemails, whatever, between anyone in Governor Greg Abbott's office and anyone with an @Tesla, @SpaceX email address or Elon Musk. And we did get correspondence from other people. We got some emails from Dan Patrick. We got some emails from some senators. The governor has told us that none of his or his office's emails with Elon Musk or anyone at the companies that we requested are public or should be public. And the office actually told us that it would take them like 1,000 hours or something like that to comb through all of the information that they had. They charged us for that. We cut a check. They cashed the check. And then they came back and told us, we've determined that not a single communication from these 9 months should be released publicly.
So give me my money back. Run me my check back, bro.
Yeah. So now the whole thing goes to Ken Paxton's office. The Office of the Attorney General is like the referee for fights over public records. So his office has 45 days to decide. We've talked to some lawyers who said if they don't give us anything, that we should get that money back. But this is kind of untested territory a little bit. It's happening more and more that an office will require upfront payment, like 100% of a deposit, and then they won't give you any records and they'll ask for them to be withheld. So this is another one of my soapbox issues. It's like we have the Texas Public Information Act, which is our state FOIA, right? Freedom of information, public access to government records. And more often, I'm just not getting anything. I'm being told we can't give you anything, and you're getting charged for it. And like, look, it's my job, right? And so I can expense this to my job. But if I was, someone living in McGregor, Texas, where the SpaceX facility is, and I filed a records request and paid a bunch of money and then didn't get any records, I'd be like, well, I'm out however much money, right? It's like, so there's definitely been more difficulty, in my view, of getting these kinds of records.
Okay, so when I worked for the city, we had public information requests, peers, that when peers came, like it was a non-negotiable, right? We had a very specific list of things that we couldn't include, like personal information, banking information, anything that is from a lawyer that says confidential. Like we had a list of things that we could redact, but we had to give the public whatever it was that they asked for. If we had it, we could redact things, of course. We couldn't be like, nah, we ain't got none of that. They took it so seriously. We cannot keep any secrets. The public has a right to know. Like it was drilled into my head when I worked at the city. So I'm so confused as to why the governor's office can just be like, we just didn't find anything. Like it's horseshit. For one, but two, legally, how can they get away with that?
They didn't say they didn't find anything. They said we found a lot, but we don't think any of it should be released.
I thought that you had to release everything.
Well, with the Abbott emails, they had 5 reasons why they thought the emails shouldn't be made public. And they were everything from what you mentioned, attorney-client privilege. They said there were emails that would, if revealed, would hurt the state's ability to entice businesses. That's become a really popular one. Like the governor's office uses its clout to entice businesses, and if we reveal these communications, it's like hurting the state's competitive advantage.
Lauren, this is blowing my mind.
And again, we did get some emails, like Dan Patrick gave us some emails. He got invited out to tour the Gigafactory, that kind of thing. But then some of his communications and Senate communications were withheld because there's a new rule, and this has actually been written into the Texas Public Information Act, that communications with a lawmaker and a Texas resident are not public. And the reason they made those private was they said Texas residents have a right to lobby, their elected representatives for issues. But that also applies to, people that live in Texas that work for people like Elon Musk. So the only communications we got were communications from people emailing Dan Patrick and a senator who don't live in Texas, right? Maybe there's someone that lives out of state who works for a congressman or something like that. And so since they live in DC or they live in California or they live in Florida, we can get their emails, but we can't get the email of the guy who works for SpaceX and lives in Austin.
What's the point of having a Texas Information Act? What is the point when you can just make the decision like, yeah, we got stuff, but we're not going to give it to you?
Yeah, there's so many carve-outs now to the law.
Oh, God.
And, this isn't like a one-sided thing. Like TPPF, which is one of the most influential conservative think tanks in Texas, or the most, arguably, they have a whole team that is constantly arguing that the Public Information Act is just full of holes and just allows elected officials to withhold way too much. So this is, an issue that I think people are calling for change on, but the people that have to institute that change are the legislators, like lawmakers themselves. And that means in some ways they would have to be convinced to make their own records more public. And, that might not be such an incentive for some people.
If you're a CityCast Austin listener, you know I love Cabana Club. And in case you haven't been there yet, here's what you're missing. Cabana Club is a new establishment in East Austin. It's open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to late each night. Y'all, this place has everything. Coffee, cocktails, co-working, 2 bars, food trucks, tons of indoor and outdoor seating, public Wi-Fi, plenty of parking, an on-site speakeasy, and a swimming pool that is always 21 and up and open to the public. It makes sense as to why I'm there all the time. If you're looking for a fun space to host your next event at, the space is large enough to accommodate partial or full venue buyouts. Visit them online at cabanaclubaustin.com and follow them on Instagram at cabanaclubatx. Your East Austin oasis awaits.
This episode of CityCast is sponsored by Babbel. Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start that journey today? You can start speaking a new language with confidence thanks to Babbel's conversation-based technique that quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and I've been learning Spanish with Babbel, just one of the 12 languages you can learn with it, including Dutch, French, Italian, which is going to be next for me, Turkish, and Russian. I love the interactive dialogues that Babbel has, which allow me to practice what I've learned right away, and also the speech recognition function, which makes sure I'm getting the pronunciation just right, which honestly, usually I'm not. Also, I love that Babbel's lessons always cover actual things that I talk about in the real world, like food, talking to people I've just met, and also food. Staying motivated to learn a new language has never been easier thanks to real-time feedback, progress trackers, and handy visualizations in only 10 to 15 minutes a day on Babbel's mobile app or website. So get talking with Babbel. I want you to learn another language, so I'm teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
So back to Elon. So recently he announced that he's starting a new political party, the America Party. So I'm scared that I already know the answer to this, but do you think this will appeal to Texans? And eventually, will that make them choose between Elon and Trump?
So I actually think this is more complicated right now. And it's because of Trump and Musk's relationship. Like, who knows what it's going to be like next month or next week, right? Or tomorrow.
Listen, it's very lesbian. Speaking as someone that's super queer, like, this just reminds me of my, like, some of the people in my friend group. I'm like, it's Thursday. Are y'all together? No. Okay, great.
They have a fraught relationship. Yes.
Yeah.
And he got through the session when they were on good terms. And then, at least publicly, we've seen it's like Musk taking a step out against the president and then taking a step back and then stepping back out. And so I think in terms of his party, it's really going to depend on the timing and where the relationship is. So I talked to some folks who said Donald Trump is still the kingmaker politician in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
The top elected officials here are still close with him. He's the president, he's the guy. That's true. But like we were talking about, Elon Musk has laid this groundwork, this long investment. And if things stay on the same path, he will be here long after Trump is president as a force in Texas. And so I think in the near term, there are going to be questions asked by politicians about whether to support a political party or an open, like a big priority of Musk's if he is on the outs with the president, because they don't want to lose clout with the president, and they don't want to be seen as choosing Musk over Trump, right? But in the long term, how will that play out?
Right.
If and when Trump is out of politics, does Musk gain ground back because he has a foothold in Texas? Like, is his long game gonna outlast the president?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
And those are that's the juggling that a Republican in the state has to do right now. Like, they're probably thinking, I want to keep Musk happy because he's got this huge footprint and he's got all these businesses, but of course I can't be on the outs with the president. So how do you how do you balance that?
It's really interesting to me when our leaders, or not just leaders, but stars, celebrities, when they show up, it's just regular ass people. You know what I mean? It's very strange to see two powerful people publicly argue like that or publicly fight like that. It's given heavy reality TV show. You know what I mean? Like,
well, and so few people have done it with Trump because Trump is good at the reality TV show stuff.
Yeah.
And most politicians are not. Most politicians have been, at least the traditional ones, they're like so used to the heavily scripted, cautious approach. They don't know how to deal with Trump because he's can be unpredictable, right?
Yeah,
Elon Musk is also unpredictable.
Exactly.
And so they match that energy, right? And it's not like Elon's still one of the richest people in the world. So
he's fine.
Even if he takes a hit, he's
fine.
Many hundreds of billions of dollars.
It's just wild. It's like any minute I'm expecting Andy Cohen to sit down with them and then have a whole like reunion special. Anyway. So Austin is becoming kind of a testing ground for Elon, especially when it comes to like self-driving cars. And so he recently rolled out the robo-taxis here and made that footprint even bigger to be more competitive with Waymo. Do you know how these robotaxis are going here? Are there any issues with regulation, or he just letting it fly?
Yeah, I'm actually working on a story about this.
Ooh.
But one of the bills that was passed this session were new regulations for autonomous vehicles. And this was another bill that got very little coverage. In fact, there were a small number of opponents. They didn't even know it passed until I called them because it died and then was tacked onto another bill like in the last days. So just to like a Cliff's Notes version of the new law is it doesn't do very much more than what we already have. We have rules on the books from 2017, so they're pretty old. And it adds a couple new things. Now, autonomous vehicle companies will have to be permitted with the state, with the DMV. So they'll have to the DMV will be aware of what companies are operating AVs. That's the shorthand, AVs, driverless cars. And then they have to have an emergency personnel plan. Like they have to have a plan where if something happens, the company has a way of interacting with police, firefighter, EMS, right? Because there's not a person other than the passenger in these cars some of the time.
Right.
So they had to have that plan. That's basically all the new rules do. Just those two things. That's it. And I talked with the sponsor and he said it was intentionally a light regulatory touch. There were other bills that were a heavier regulation on AVs that died. In fact, one was a Democrat bill that Tesla opposed, and it died. And the author said that he thinks it died because Tesla opposed it. And that one would have required like a public hearing if there was a death in an AV. The big question right now is liability. We don't have explicit rules about who is liable in the event of a crash or a death, except to say the operator is at fault. An operator could apply to different things. It could apply to, the insurance company holding like the robo-taxi certificate. Yeah. It could apply to the individual who owns the car, maybe in the event of like, I'm a Tesla driver and I rent out my car for passive income as a robotaxi. It could eventually apply to something like that. So there's a lot of open questions about who's liable if something bad happens. And a lot of people don't know, we have autonomous big rigs in Texas right now.
What?
Yeah, but 18-wheelers.
18-wheelers?
Yes. So there is a person in the cab right now, like with the Tesla robotaxis, there's a human person there, even though they're not supposed to touch the wheel. But their intention is to build out more routes. They're going Houston to Dallas right now. They want to go to El Paso and into other states. So this is a big future point for AVs because truck drivers can only stay on the road for a certain number of hours before they have to take a break. But if there's no driver, they don't ever have to take a break. So we're talking about like big money for the trucking industry. Trucking unions are very against it. But we don't have as many truckers as we need to, yada, yada, yada. So anyway, hopefully I will have a story soon explaining what we know and don't know about this fast growing technology. And Texas is really at the forefront. California and Texas are the two states. So
we really love to be a guinea pig. So speaking of, interactions with Texans, Elon reportedly lives in Westlake Hills. And recently I read that he got into it with some of his neighbors over his fence. Um which is just another one of those things again where I'm just like, oh yeah, this is just a regular dude getting into arguments with his neighbors about his fence. So what happened after he got caught breaking the Westlake Hills building rules? Because there was like a back and forth and like,
Yeah. Yeah. So the New York Times broke this story. I'm shaking my fist at them.
get off my lawn.
Yeah, no, great reporter at the New York Times broke the story. That this fight was happening in Westlake Hills over Elon's fences, and the way the story goes is that an LLC with links to Musk, because he never buys things under his own name, right? Because then it would be obvious where he has homes. An LLC linked to him bought this home in Westlake Hills. It's like a $6 million home. For people that don't know, Westlake Hills is its own city. It's surrounded by Austin, but it's its own city. It has its own city council. It's a very wealthy area. And he put up a big metal fence on one side where there wasn't any shrubs. And then he put a gate in the front where cars go in and out with like a keypad. And, this is a cul-de-sac. It's only got a handful of houses on it. And his neighbors started to complain. They said that, like, not only did they think the fences were ugly, they said that this guy has a keypad fence. Cars are backing up into the street when they want to, like, deliver stuff. It's a small street, so, like, you can't get past them. They were accusing his people of, like, parking in the cul-de-sac. Like, I've seen pictures of, like, a dozen cars parked in the cul-de-sac, like, and it looks like a parking lot. It doesn't, and they're not parked along the cul-de-sac. They're parked like in blocks as though they're like spaces. The HOA president has been kind of at the forefront of this. He's been really upset because this is a very small street, and he just felt like the privacy, the quietness, of the street was being disrupted.
That people pay for. Other people pay for. Yeah.
Yes. Finally went to the city. He said, city, give me permission to do what I already did. Give me permission to have my stuff, my fence.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Ask for forgiveness, yes. And then his neighbors came out in April at this public meeting, this planning meeting, and were like, don't give it to him. Like, this thing is ugly. He's causing disruptions. He's not even there most of the time. They said it was being used as like a security HQ for other properties he owns in the area.
Wow.
And so then the planning commission voted it down. They said, okay, we don't recommend he get a pass. Then it went to the city council, and that's what happened last week. The city council had to make the final decision on whether to give Musk this retroactive approval. And I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I went with 3 different versions of the story written. With the he gets everything, he gets nothing, and he gets something.
Yeah.
And what ended up happening is he hired a real estate lawyer that came and basically made a ton of concessions. This woman was like, okay, we'll take down that big, quote unquote, ugly fence, and we'll put up one that is partially see-through, and we'll cover it with vegetation, which is what the rules say you have to do. It has to be 80% see-through.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll replace the keypad with a clicker thing so people aren't going to be backing up into the street as much. And she made all these concessions and then still asked for some things that would break the rules. Like, this fence needs to be this high because if it's not this high, people can jump over the fence. Like, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
And those concessions convinced enough of the members of the city council that she and her client were acting in good faith. It was still a close vote, 3-2. The HOA president was there. He was not happy. He just felt like, well,
yep,
there he goes again, getting his way.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The dramatics.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus. Rich people really can't do whatever they want. It's seemingly. So, okay, along these lines, from your reporting, would you say that Elon Musk is beloved or hated more in Austin? How do you think people here just feel about him? Like, because I feel like for me, I don't even think about him. He's not even on my radar until I see something crazy. I'm like, what? He's fighting over a fence? Why are you still here? How do you think the city feels about him in general?
I don't know. I feel like when we post stories about him, there's a lot of mean comments about him, like get out of our city and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there's also, people that are defensive of him might not feel comfortable weighing in publicly because then they're going to get, there were some people on this social media video we put up that were like, he's a private citizen like anyone else.
Yeah.
And so, we have to remember that like Austin is a tech hub now and filled with billionaires and millionaires that are, probably feel some camaraderie with him. And they may not be as publicly voicing that support.
Yeah, of
and
course.
so I think like online, I see a lot of hate. But, that's not necessarily indicative of how the entire community, especially some people at the wealthier ends of the echelon feel about him. And those people aren't necessarily talking to me. So I want them to. I mean, to live in Westlake Hills, you have to be wealthy, and they weren't happy with him being there either. So it also comes down to like how you feel about the rocket stuff, the Tesla stuff. Some people like the electric vehicles angle, but they don't like the rockets, or they just don't like that he's in their community, or I don't know. I think some people have complex feelings about him. So
wow,
that was my way of not answering the question.
I hear you. Lauren, thank you for being here. Is there anything that I did not ask you that you want to add?
I would love to report more about the Tesla Gigafactory. So if you work there, have worked there, or any of his businesses in Texas, I want to know what it's really like to work for him. And so give me a call or send me an email or whatever.
There you go.
Yeah. tips@kut.org.
Lauren, thank you for being here. You're going to get that Gigafactory story. It's going to happen. It's inevitable.
Oh, well, thank you.
That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Lauren's reporting in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, why not tell a friend about our membership program? And then, of course, together, y'all can rate the show, leave us a review, and subscribe to our Hey Austin newsletter. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.